In a city built on billion-dollar bets, Las Vegas has never been a stranger to risk. But Mandalay Bay's $1.6 billion bet this time will likely prove that the house doesn't always win. For many Vegas residents, especially those who live on hourly wages and tips, Mandalay Bay is more than just a luxurious resort. It's a place that once created tens of thousands of stable jobs, a ticket for workers to keep a roof over their heads, pay their bills, and pursue their dreams of survival in a city that gets more expensive every year. But now, a new wave of layoffs is creating a terrifying domino effect. Fewer jobs, sharply reduced incomes, and the cost of living continues to rise, as if the city is shooting itself in the foot. And if Mandalay Bay falls, the entire Vegas economy, which depends on tourism and services, could be drawn into a downward spiral. In today's video, we'll delve into why this decision to cut staff is not only a strategic mistake, but could also trigger a systemic economic crisis, pushing Las Vegas closer to a future no one here wants to see. Mandalay Bay emerged in the late 90s as a strategic weapon in Las Vegas's expansion race, a time when it was believed that the city's future would be written by giant resorts. With nearly $1 billion spent on the initial construction phase and a further increase to a total of $0.6 billion through subsequent upgrades, Mandalay Bay was not just a real estate project. It was a statement that Las Vegas would once again revive its prosperity. In those years, Las Vegas truly operated on the belief that the growth trajectory only pointed upwards. Tourist arrivals increased steadily each year, the entertainment industry is booming, and super resorts are considered the perfect model for an unlimited future. A part of that belief still resonates today. The city welcomed 40.8 million visitors in 2023, a figure that shows Las Vegas hasn't slowed down at all. But on the other hand, it hasn't yet surpassed the peak of 2019, which was over 42.5 million visitors. That small data was enough to reveal the truth. The expectation of infinite growth is no longer suitable for Las Vegas of this decade. There is still a rebound, but it is not strong enough to sustain a giant model like Mandalay Bay. With its strategic location on the South Strip, Mandalay Bay is expected to become the gateway to the city's expansion, a dream transfer station leading visitors from the airport to the heart of Vegas. It carries the ambition to become a symbol of the future, where grandeur will forever be the language of success. But the market is changing faster than expected. Modern travelers are starting to prioritize personalized experiences, flexible service, and real value over grand spaces. And it was at that moment that Mandalay Bay began to show its misalignment. The construction model designed for continuous prosperity had to operate during a time when every expense was carefully considered. Economies of scale, once the greatest strength, are gradually becoming a burden. When the number of guests doesn't increase proportionally, resorts have to find ways to make up for the revenue gaps. Resort fees, parking fees, and food prices being inflated have become commonplace. Local residents are complaining about the $40-50 parking fee just to attend events at the arena. And when the CEO of MGM has to admit that shocking prices are negatively impacting the image of Las Vegas, we understand that the issue has gone far beyond a few fees. What once represented prosperity, gleaming golden glass towers, hotel lobbies so vast they echoed, now stands as a testament to misalignment. It's not that Mandalay Bay has changed, but rather that customer expectations have changed. They didn't come to admire the scale, they came to experience the quality. And as the gap between the resort's self-proclaimed product and what guests actually received widened, that golden light looked even more forlorn in the night. The impact doesn't stop with the resort itself. A super resort losing its status drags down the entire surrounding value chain. Restaurants, shops, transportation services, satellite casinos, and even the local economic rhythm of the South Strip. A crack in a system as large as this spreads very quickly. Mandalay Bay was once seen as a sign of a boom. now it risks becoming the first marker of a downturn, a testament to how ambition, when not updated, becomes a burden. The decline of Mandalay Bay didn't stem from a single shock, but from a quiet accumulation over many years. And among them, the hidden fees system is the most visible sign of the mismatch between a resort built for prosperous times and the saturated market of the present. When the number of guests no longer increased as expected, the resort began to compensate by shifting the burden onto the guests. What's noteworthy is that these fees didn't arrive as a clear decision, but rather like a thin layer of dust, gradually covering the glamorous surface, making the once brilliant golden light of Mandalay Bay less clear than before. Today's customers no longer see Las Vegas as a place to escape reality with wallets wide open. They scrutinized every detail, every experience, every penny spent. It is precisely at that point that Mandalay Bay became a symbol of the opposing forces between rising prices and declining value. High resort fees, controversial parking charges, and food prices considered far beyond their quality. All these create small cracks that everyone sees, but no one seems to fix. Fees pop up at every turn, from the parking lot entrance and front desk to the room bill, making the feeling of being welcomed give way to an unspoken reminder: pay more. This is particularly in contrast to the memories of those who knew Vegas during its heyday. At that time, service came before cost. The feeling of luxury came from being served without having to ask. Vegas built its reputation on almost ostentatious extravagance. Now that model is reversed, the generosity has disappeared, replaced by meticulous spreadsheets. When tourists have to reach into their wallets too many times before entering a casino, the excitement, which is the fuel for a vacation, is extinguished right at the door. Market data clearly reflects this sentiment. In August 2024, gaming revenue across the entire Strip decreased by 3.5%. Not a large figure, but enough to show that customers are spending more cautiously. As money flowing into entertainment games decreases, capital fees that were once considered a small part become the final straw. People started calculating, if the fun has decreased, is it still worth spending extra on parking fees, resort fees, and service charges? The feeling of being charged every place shatters the friendly foundation of mega resorts. Generosity, which once defined the Vegas experience, is now replaced by a feeling of being taken advantage of. And as the resort increasingly relied on these revenues, a truth was revealed. The core values that Mandalay Bay once leaned on had weakened. These small cuts to guests' wallets are never just a financial matter. They are a sign that the resort is trying to patch a larger hole. The imbalance between its operational model and market demand. The impact of this goes beyond mere inconvenience. It breaks the most important behavioral chain in the tourism industry. Trust leads to spending, and spending leads to repeat visits. When trust is broken, the remaining two links automatically contract. Customers are starting to shorten their stays, reduce spending, or switch to other locations. Once the feeling of paying more to get less arises, the resort not only loses current customers, but also future opportunities. Does Mandalay Bay still have a reason for guests to return? And when every small fee makes them think, again, how many times does it take for a destination once symbolic of generosity to become a place people want to avoid? The erosion of value due to hidden fees not only reduces revenue, it cracks the veneer of reputation, the most fragile guarantee of a travel brand. And once that shell cracks, every other crisis will find its way in faster than anyone can realize. Mandalay Bay is entering a period of decline not only because of a stagnant market, but also due to an intangible yet persistent factor: memory. Although the resort rarely mentions it, 2017 left a silent wound in the minds of visitors. Places associated with rare events rarely shed that layer of memory. And Mandalay Bay, though no longer directly linked to any current risks, still faces a wave of emotions stemming from what once happened inside its walls. Alongside this, minor service issues, from hygiene and customer care to operations, were like drops of water falling at the right moment when trust was already thin. Every small mistake, which could have been overlooked during prosperous times, now serves as evidence that the resort is falling short of its former standards. A video, a negative review, a story spreading among friends. All it takes is enough to reinforce the feeling that Mandalay Bay is no longer as safe a choice as it used to be. Those signs reappeared in a context of financial pressure. In 2024, despite total gaming revenue across the Las Vegas Strip reaching $21.8 billion, an impressive figure for any market, net profit was only about $820 million, a decrease of over 40% compared to the previous year. When profit margins plummet like this, the first things to be cut are not neon lights or signs, but operating costs, personnel, services, and maintenance. And each time it's cut like that, a part of the experience is narrowed, pushing the resort further away from the image guests still hold in their memories. The problem is that reputation is not just an asset, but the foundation of the entire experience. When that foundation is damaged, every new model, strategy, and investment must bear the increased risk. A woman in her 50s who once chose Mandalay Bay for its unmistakable luxurious impression now admits she's choosing another place to feel safer. It's no longer just an individual story, it's a shift in visitor intuition, a kind of feeling that's hard to measure but spreads easily. As reputation crumbles, customer behavior changes according to a familiar pattern. They gradually turn away, revenue is affected, the resort continues to cut costs, and service quality declines even further. That vortex tightened with each financial quarter, making it increasingly difficult for the resort to pull itself back to its former position. A brand can survive many challenges, but few brands can withstand the test when customers begin to doubt the safety and quality of the very place where they spend their vacations. So, can a brand be revived when the memories associated with risk are still there? And if small mistakes continue to appear while the reputation is fragile, will there come a point where all efforts to repair become too late? It was at this very point that Mandalay Bay entered its most difficult phase, losing its most important customer source, the conference group, which had been the backbone of midweek operations. For many years, conference guests have been the silent pillar that has kept Mandalay Bay running smoothly. They aren't as noisy as weekend tourists, nor do they carry the aura of party nights, but they are a source of guests that helps fill rooms from Monday to Thursday, a time that is always a challenge for large resorts. This is the group of guests who create a steady and reliable rhythm, helping Mandalay Bay maintain revenue during the week and balance the fluctuations of the tourism market. However, they are the group that has changed the fastest in recent years. The trend of meetings and event organization has shifted. Online meetings, hybrid models, and cost-saving policies are causing companies to shorten employee stays, reduce the number of attendees, and limit spending on each business trip. They come to Vegas less often, stay for shorter periods, and spend less money on activities outside the convention hall. This change isn't just about numbers, it's about behavioral structure. Even though conferences are still happening, the level of contribution to the resort ecosystem has significantly decreased. The market surface still looks okay. Las Vegas recorded approximately 40.8 million visitors in 2023, a slight increase from the previous year. But when you look closely at the distribution, things are different. The midweek volume, which is directly tied to the conference industry, has changed significantly. A small shift in this allocation has a huge effect on resorts that rely on corporate guests, such as Mandalay Bay. And when this stable source of guests disappears, the revenue structure of the large resort shakes much faster than many people imagine. Because this isn't just a group of customers, this is the soul of the operating model. When the conference guest segment was lost, the resort not only lacked people to fill rooms, they lost the foundation for maintaining economic momentum, pricing plans, and even the resort for business identity that had once provided a competitive advantage. This imbalance spread throughout the system. More empty rooms during the week. Resorts were forced to raise prices on weekends to compensate, and that made leisure guests, who are price sensitive, feel pressured, leading them to leave. A silent vortex forms from seemingly small changes in customer behavior. Can a model designed for a daily stream of people maintain its identity when relying too heavily on weekend price increases? And if conference guests continue to leave, can the resort find replacement customers quickly and steadily enough to make up for the revenue structure built over 2 decades? The collapse of this foundation almost forced Mandalay Bay to try short-term fixes, and in the hotel industry, that often means cutting costs. But it was precisely at that choice that the downward spiral began to become most apparent and pushed the resort into its next difficult phase. As revenue pillars began to falter, Mandalay Bay, like many other large resorts, turned to the most familiar solution in business: cutting staff. But in the service industry, where people are the experience, those cuts are like removing each small bone from a body that can only stand upright when properly supported. Its effects didn't appear after months or quarters. They were almost immediate on the faces of visitors, in the air of the corridors, and in the once smooth rhythm of the resort's operations. Customers are starting to clearly feel the difference between being cared for and being charged. In the past, Vegas impressed with its generosity, where an employee's smile, a little guidance, or a friendly conversation could make visitors feel welcome. But as staff dwindled, that care aspect suddenly thinned out, leaving a cold void that this city rarely allowed anyone to experience before. It's not because the staff doesn't want to serve better, but because the remaining workforce is forced to carry more than they are capable of. The relationship between people and service is the foundation of every resort. Guests enter a luxurious space, not just to use the facilities, but to feel connected to the people behind it. As the number of employees decreased, that bridge became fragmented. Customers no longer feel welcome. They feel they are being put into a system where every interaction is reduced to a procedure. And in a place that once thrived on energy and friendliness, that feeling is enough to make the experience lifeless. The consequence of this creates a self-corroding cycle. The remaining staff are overstretched, leading to pressure and errors. Service quality has decreased, leading to an increase in complaints. Revenue was affected, and to compensate, the resort continued to cut costs, further deepening the problem. This is no longer a story of cost optimization. This is a process of silently eroding the very thing that makes Vegas different: the warmth and humanity of the experience. Notably, a specific change exposed that rift more clearly than any financial statement. MGM has closed its in-person concierge departments at many resorts along the Strip, including Mandalay Bay. Approximately 34 staff members in this department were laid off. A small number from the perspective of management, but a significant blow to the face of the luxury experience. Concierge are not just wayfinders or table bookers. They are the embodiment of personalized service, of the feeling that every detail of your vacation is being cared for by a human being. When the concierge is replaced by a digital system, the emotional void becomes more apparent. Visitors, accustomed to attentive guidance, now face a cold screen, seeking less customizable and less human options. The process might be faster on paper, but the experience becomes more distant, right at a time when Mandalay Bay needs connection more than ever. The staff cuts, even though justified by optimization, inadvertently removed a part of the resort's soul. And in a city where lights, architecture, and advertisements can all be replicated, it's the people who truly keep visitors captivated. When that element is diminished, everything else seems to be just a brightly lit but hollow shell. After several difficult quarters, Mandalay Bay is starting to send signals that they want to regain their lost position. Some room areas have been upgraded, decorative items refreshed. Communication campaigns emphasize returning to true value, and loyalty programs for guests have been revitalized. On the surface, everything suggests the resort is trying to re-engage with guests who have returned to the property year after year, as if to say, we're still here and we're changing. But alongside those hopeful signs is a long list of challenges. Mandalay Bay still faces the unclear brand positioning problem. It wants to be luxurious, but no longer has the sophistication of the high-end segment. It wants to be mass market, but its prices are no longer within the range that mass market customers are willing to pay. The alternatives out there, from the strip center to newly built resorts, are becoming increasingly attractive, while Mandalay Bay's operating costs remain high due to the massive structure it has carried since its debut. Looking at the numbers, you can see the tension beneath the surface. In the first half of 2025, Las Vegas saw gaming revenue on the Strip decline by approximately 3.87% compared to the same period last year, reaching only around $713.8 million in May. This is no small number in a capital market heavily reliant on stable tourist spending. This data shows that while the number of visitors to the city remains high, revenue from the core, where casinos and premium services breathe together, may not recover quickly enough to help large resorts like Mandalay Bay stay afloat. This is the most important measure of the current phase. Mandalay Bay doesn't just need to survive, it needs to reborn. The resort must prove that it can elevate the experience, not just renovate the exterior. In an increasingly competitive tourism market, customers are not only choosing based on price or fleeting preferences. They seek a sense of being in the right space, being served to the right standard, being among the right crowd, according to their own expectations. That's the kind of feeling a large resort can only create when its identity is truly strong. And if Mandalay Bay, one of the most iconic pieces of the South Strip, can't get past the stage, is it a bigger warning for Sin City as a whole? Because the decline of a symbol is often not just its own story, it's a sign of a broader, deeper change. Ultimately, every story about Las Vegas comes back to the human experience. And Mandalay Bay is at a crossroads. Either it finds a way to regain trust, or it will become a painful lesson in the cost of slow adaptation. If you've ever witnessed the transformation of Las Vegas, or seen something similar in a place you love, please share your thoughts. Those stories can give us a clearer picture of the future this city is heading toward. When you see Mandalay Bay standing silent in the golden glow of the Strip, it's easy to forget that behind those glass windows lies an entire system trying to find itself again. Once a symbol born of ambition, it now has to learn how to survive in an era where expectations have changed, trust has thinned, and the patience of visitors is no longer what it used to be. Las Vegas still shines brightly every night, but if you look closer, you'll see this city is standing between two shores. On one side, the memory of its golden age, and on the other, questions about a future no one can be sure of. Mandalay Bay is just one chapter in the larger story of a city built on dreams, and now facing the limitations of those very dreams. If even the symbols that once represented prosperity are beginning to falter, what will happen to smaller places, more fragile people, and the values we have always believed were unchangeable? And what can we still give to future generations when the foundations we grew up with are becoming increasingly unfamiliar? If this story resonates with you, if you've witnessed the transformation of Las Vegas or any place you love, please share your thoughts in the comments section. Please like, subscribe, and share this video so that more people can listen and reflect together. Each interaction you make is a way for this story to continue being told. This video is built for the purpose of analysis, storytelling, and providing insights based on publicly available facts from the press, market reports, and reference materials. The content is not intended to attack any individual, organization, or business. Any assessments of social and economic trends only reflect observations from an editorial perspective and do not represent absolute conclusions. Viewers are encouraged to verify information from multiple sources and form their own opinions.